Hello, everyone, and welcome to the VeryReasonablePilots podcast. I am your host, Charles, along with, as always, is my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, and podcast associate, Jacob Cloth. How you doing today, Jacob?
I am swell. How are you doing, Charles?
I'm doing great. I'm having a good time. I'm ready to listen to a TV show and imagine it, and I'm going to imagine all sorts of famous actors as the characters in the TV show.
Okay.
And
yeah,
you told me a little bit about this pitch before we started. So this is a reboot of Scooby-Doo, right? But centered around the character of Velma, and there's no Scooby-Doo in it, right?
So I never really liked Scooby-Doo. I just thought he was a hack, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does he really do for the team? Velma is clearly the one that does all the work.
Yeah.
So let's do a show about her, right? Mm-hmm. Which would be good normally, but instead of making that good, the idea is that I'm going to ruin all these characters by making them not similar to their normal selves at all.
And make them really unlikable also, right?
All of them really unlikable. We're going to change Shaggy's name because nobody likes that.
Nobody
Everyone
likes
thinks
Shaggy.
His real name, Norville, is better.
Norville.
Fred's going to be a dick.
Fred's going to be the worst person in the world.
Probably the worst person in the world because that's what he's really all about.
Yeah,
right?
obviously. I've been rewatching some Scooby-Doo, and all I could think while watching it was, man, this Fred guy is such a prick. He keeps trying to help people, you know, and do all that stuff. I hate him. He's the worst.
Daphne, we're going to make her something, but I don't know because I didn't watch the show that I'm
She's
referencing.
dealing drugs.
Is she dealing drugs?
Yes, she's like a drug dealer. It's so
what the hell, man?
Stupid. We're talking about the show
Where's
Velma.
there a dog, man?
There's no dog anywhere near the show.
It's the whole point
insane.
of Scooby-Doo. It's in the name, man.
Yeah.
You gotta have a dog.
There's no Scooby snacks. There's no dog. Shaggy talks about how he doesn't like drugs at all, and he thinks drugs are lame and gross all the time, which is really weird.
That is weird. Does he actually do that?
Yeah.
That's insane.
And Velma and Daphne kiss at one point. What else happens?
Well, yeah, that's not too bad.
Anyway, that's not bad. They kiss because Velma's having a panic attack, I think, and that's how she gets out of the panic attack. Is big smooches from Daphne, her drug dealer.
Weird.
It's a weird.
That's
bad
not
show.
my actual show.
No, good. Thank God. I think that show's already been made and also has the lowest rating on IMDb of anything ever.
I think it's the lowest rated animated production. I don't know if it's the lowest thing.
Yeah,
ever.
I think it's the animated production.
Anyways, we've got a show for you today.
Ooh.
I've talked about this with you before, but then what the idea I talked about with you is no longer what I'm doing.
Okay.
But it's still in that time period, so strap in, Charlie. Because
Roman times?
do you remember Persian Game of Thrones?
Yes, I remember Persian Game of Thrones, one of our
Get
first
ready
episodes.
for Roman Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Roman Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's getting exciting. We're new from Scipio Aemilius to Caesar. You don't know who Scipio Aemilius is, but you know who Caesar is.
I do. I have heard of the month of, is it July? July's named after him?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
The month.
Anyways, oh, look at you.
It's the most important month of the year.
Plugging yourself. No. That's
Give me a job, please. That's me plugging myself.
Okay. I'm gonna be running through the episodes pretty quick because I got multiple seasons here, so I don't want to make this take forever, because when I started writing this I was like, it'd be like 2-3 seasons, and then I was going through it and I was like, wow, this is a really long story. I was getting into season 4 and I was like, all right, let's just try to compress this a little bit.
Nah, keep it going. We'll have a 2-hour-long episode today.
No, I was going to be pretty brief with the people and the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start off, the main characters you're going to be following are Scipio Aemilius. So you know who this guy is. He's a former consul. Consul is like kind of the highest rank in Rome. It's like the president, but you can only be president for a year.
Okay.
And you have very limited terms. And so... but he's like, you know, he's built up his political career. He's this very highly rated figure in Rome. Mm-hmm. And he's at like the cusp of greatness. Like He's just before his popularity reaches its ultimate height. He's this guy that's about to become a legend. Very proud, very behind the old Republic. He's what they call an optimate, which means he's very much set in the old ways of how the Republic operates, but mainly behind the Senate and its power. He wants the Senate to have all the power. And in the Roman Republic, there's the Senate, and there's the tribunes and the assembly. The assembly is kind of like the popular vote, like the normal people can vote, and the Senate's kind of like the sort of oligarchic rich families, kind of, but there's a lot of them, so
yeah,
not as oligarchic, but there's kind of oligarchic. Anyway, so he's that. He sort of represents that idea. Next we have Tiberius Gracchus, who is related to Scipio. He's his like nephew. So, but they're not like related by blood. So
okay.
Tiberius Gracchus, you might know, is the grandson of, or maybe the great-grandson of the famous general Scipio Africanus, who beat the Carthaginians and Hannibal.
Yeah.
So he's pretty famous, if anyone knows that.
Pretty famous.
But anyway, Tiberius Gracchus, he's this young upstart youth tribune. I spoiled something there. He's young upstart youth. He's kind of like, he's trying to get his start in the political world. He's trying to do what he can to reach the pinnacle that his uncle's about to reach and has kind of already reached.
And correct me if I'm wrong, did you have to serve in the Roman military before you were allowed to participate in politics, or am I thinking of someone else? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's like 10 years or something like that, Roman military, before you can serve in politics.
Okay, so everyone's at least 10 years, military
Everyone's,
experience.
Yeah, well, they join really young, too, as well.
Okay.
So Tiberius is going to be, like, in this show, he's going to be, like, 20s and then 30s. Like, late 20s and then 30s. And Scipio, he's older. He's probably 50s, 40s to 60s.
I'm
next character,
thinking Scipio is played by Nick Offerman.
Scipio is probably like a big... because he has a lot of lines that are very philosophical.
Okay.
So he has to be like a real drama actor. You know what I mean?
A Patrick
Like
Stewart
he has to
style.
a little younger. Patrick Stewart can be Cato the Elder, who's another character we'll get into in a second.
Yeah.
Somebody that's like, 50s.
Okay.
He could be, I don't know, think of somebody that's a dramatic actor that's in their 50s.
How about that? I'm trying to think
Leonardo
of
DiCaprio.
Shakespearean actors, like big Shakespearean guys. And the only person who comes to mind is the dude who's done the Death on the Nile. He plays that detective with the mustache, right? He did Murder on the Orient
I know
Express.
you're talking about.
Yeah, that guy. Because he's a big Shakespearean guy.
Or, since we're saying detectives, we could make it Mr. James Bond himself.
Ooh. Daniel Craig.
Daniel
And we
Craig.
know he can do an accent because we watched Glass Onion. And the first
they
night
don't
of
really
it.
have accents for this, but
Yeah,
I guess
but
they maybe
what if
should.
we gave him a big southern accent just for fun?
No. I feel like he obviously can do a very serious role, and that's what Scipio is. But Scipio, he's this... He's like this, philosophical figure, like very good politician, but also one of the best, strongest military figures and best generals at this time right now in the Roman Republic. And our last big character of this season is Gaius Marius. Or Gaius Marius. I don't know how you pronounce it, really. We'll just call him Marius for short, because a lot of people are called Gaius.
Oh, okay.
So Marius is a very young soldier. He is not... he wasn't born in Rome, but he has Roman rights. He was born just outside.
Okay.
He's what they call a novus homo, a new man, which means he doesn't have like the political connections or like the family pedigree to get into like politics easily. And so the easiest way for him to get in politics is to join the army and hope they can get somewhere. So he's a very young and skilled soldier who comes from like a kind of middle class family.
Okay.
Rich enough to own a horse and set him up so that he can join the military. but not wealthy enough that they can get him any higher than that.
Yeah. He doesn't have the
So
connections.
episode 1. Yeah, he doesn't have the connections. He has a little bit of money. Mm-hmm. He's kind of like a rags to riches story, if you're getting ready for that.
I love rags and riches.
Okay.
Let's see how they come
Don't we
together.
all love rags? You know, they're good for cleaning stuff, aren't
Yeah.
they?
My favorite superhero is Ragman.
Yep.
A real
Episode
superhero.
1.
Let's hear it.
We open with the famous quote from Cato the Elder. Patrick Stewart's doing it. He's giving a speech in the Senate, and he says, Carthage must be destroyed. At the end of every speech, Cato the Elder always said, Carthage must be destroyed. Mm-hmm. Because they had won the last war against them, but they didn't destroy the city.
Yeah.
And he was worried about their power reasserting, so every speech he would say, and Carthage must be destroyed. Mm-hmm. Well, we're gonna be in Rome at this period, and a contingent of Carthage's neighbors come, and they tell them that essentially they spin the story a little different, but the way it goes in history is they attack Carthage, and Carthage defends itself, and Rome specifically told Carthage that they can't raise a military force without asking Rome.
Yeah.
So Rome declares war on Carthage because they raised a military force in defense.
Of course. That's history, baby.
Yeah. Boom. So we're gonna have these people kind of spin it to the Senate a little bit, and that's when Cato gives the speech, and the Senate decides that we're gonna go to war, right?
There's probably a whole bunch
go
of
against
grumbling
Carthage.
and bumbling from old men. We hear in the background
So-
as he says it.
We're kind of gonna skip forward a little bit, where because the first people they send to the fight in the the first consul they send to the fight gets absolutely wrecked, and so there's gonna be more fighting in the Senate, he's terrible, and they're like, we must send Scipio Aemilius because he's this great general,
Yeah.
But Scipio Aemilius has already served as consul, and he can't serve again as consul. So generally, you'll appoint someone consul, then give them an army, and then send them down there.
Yeah.
That's kind of the idea of what they do. And but Aemilius has already served as consul, and so they bypass the law, because the way the Roman Republic works is there's no you could really legislatively get around anything by just passing a law. So any rules that there are, you can just pass an exception for it.
Yeah.
Becomes
That's
a
how things
problem.
were. Ancient
This is the
times,
first
man.
time they do it, and it becomes a problem later, as you will see.
Yeah.
So he gets elected consul, and so we'll have him and his young relative Tiberius Gracchus and a young officer named Marius going down to Carthage. So that's the first episode is gonna be very political. It's gonna be we're gonna focus on the Carthaginian war starting. Probably a couple characters that go to Carthage and get wrecked, and then back home the political turmoil, and then ultimately deciding that they need to send Aemilius.
Maybe we have
And-
a subplot of some Carthaginian locals, and they're just seeing this from the ground point of view,
Yeah, we'll have the intro of Gaius Marius. Well, he'll be at home, and he's yearning to get into the thick of it, of the world, and maybe his it's like the opening of Mulan or something like that, where they need soldiers and they come to his house, and he's I will go to fight for Rome, and his parents are a little worried, but they're he's great, so he'll do well.
Maybe his dad steps
leaves
up
for greatness.
initially to take his son's place, but then he's gets tested by a soldier, and he's he can't fight. He's an
You're
old
too
man.
old because you're past the. They have a max age range for people.
That makes sense.
He's yeah, you're too old, man. We need your son. He's strong and stuff.
young.
And it's duh, my son, Marius, go.
He shall die for the glory
Marius
of
is
Rome.
I shall. For Rome. And he rides off with the soldiers.
Yeah.
And then Tiberius Gracchus, he's very much more like a public speaker, sort of politician type. So he's probably, at the beginning of this, he's talking with his mom. His mom is, her name's Cornelius, and she's very influential because her dad was this legendary general that defeated Carthage, Scipio Africanus.
Yeah.
So she's got some influence, and so he's at home with his his mom and his younger brother, whose name is what is his name? It's like starts with a G.
Bran.
You know, Charlie. What is it?
Wait, is this a trick question? Have you already told me? And then this is a test, or am I? Do I actually?
What's his name, Charlie? You know it.
Gregory.
Gregory?
No, that's not it.
You're pretty close.
Am I?
Yeah.
I don't know. Tell me. I'm bad with names. You know this. Jack.
Remember how I said earlier that a lot of people have the same name?
Oh, it's Gaius.
Gaius.
Gaius, yeah.
Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. I just thought it'd be funny. Okay, so he's you know, his brother is at home, the two Gracchus brothers.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking, he's like at home, he's trying to convince his mother to get him to join up with the army for this. Like, he's like, Mom, you know, you gotta talk to Emilius and tell him to bring me on as an advisor.
He'll listen to you. You're smart.
Or as a quaestor, as they're called.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually how to pronounce it, but essentially it's assistant to the consul.
Yeah. Like a squire situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of, but not really. Like, the quaestor has a lot of authority.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's kind of like the person right below the consul, and it's usually reserved for like people like Tiberius, who are either friends of the family or someone that's kind of up on the, they're like on the come up kind of sort of. So it's like it's one of the first roles you get before you move on later in the political stuff.
Okay.
So we got him convincing his mom, and she says yes, and she like helps him get the spot. And episode 2 is gonna be Marius, Tiberius, and Emilius in Carthage. And we're gonna kick right into the battle, because that's gonna be fun.
Big
they're
battle.
sieging Carthage. Marius and Tiberius are the first ones over the wall to help take the city. Like, very heroic, both of them.
Did they have grappling
and, like,
hooks back in the day? Like, you could throw a hook up, on a rope and climb up? Or
I have no idea. Maybe.
we could make it up a little bit. You know?
Cool, I guess. They might have had that. They might have just thrown ladders up. I have no idea what they did.
Who knows?
Might have just made a hole in the wall with a catapult and then ran in.
Yeah, that's good stuff, too.
Roman had really good siege artillery, so that's probably what they did.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
So, we're going to have some awesome fighting. Marius and Tiberius going through the city separately. They don't really know each other. They can, meet and talk a little bit, but they're not friends, or they don't really converse. We get the sense that Tiberius is very much a political man, and he's really making friends with sort of the upper tier soldiers.
The upper crust.
But he sort of sees the plight of the younger soldier, and he recognizes it and feels something about it.
Yeah.
But Marius, he is right in the thick of it with all the, poorer soldiers. To fight in the army at this time, you have to have land, so no one's really poor, but like on the scale of the way things are, they're poor.
They're poor comparatively.
And so he's doing, he's in the thick of it. He's not using his status as an officer to sit back or anything. He's right up with the men doing the work that needs to be done.
Doing probably a big single take, fight scene. We get to see him spin around using a shield and this little gladius, right? That's what they use?
Yeah.
Short swords and just fucking guys up all day long. Big cool fight scene.
Big cool fight scene. Marius, he's a badass. We're getting the impression of that. He's one of the greater warriors in Roman history. Yeah. And so he's doing really well. Tiberius is, he's doing okay, but he's not nearly as well. They sort of get back. They've got some loot. They get back to Emilius, who looks over this city, and he laments the destruction of Carthage. He feels bad because he sees. He says, "This is the quote." He's talking to Polybius, who's like his assistant general. He says, "A glorious moment, Polybius, but I have a dread foreboding that someday the same doom will be pronounced on my own country."
Oh no.
Scipio then quoted a line from Homer: "A day will come when sacred Troy shall perish, and Priam and his people shall be slain." So looking upon the destruction of Carthage, he has like this philosophical moment where he laments that this destruction will fall upon the eternal city. Rome,
you
someday.
reap what you sow, Rome. Bunch of dicks always salting the earth of places.
Yeah.
They salt the earth this time? Did that happen to Carthage, or is that a different place that Rome salted the earth?
In the third war where they fight against Carthage, this one is where they salt the earth.
Okay.
But then they later colonize it, so they
They probably regretted salting the earth.
Well, they probably don't colonize literally the spot. I don't think salting the earth really lasts that long, but
Probably not.
and in the, you said they were dicks. In the perspective of this time period, everyone's a dick.
Yeah,
so
well, yeah,
they're
that's
not really
history,
dicks.
isn't it?
Yeah. Everyone will destroy your city and kill all your people.
If you let them.
Yeah. That's So that's sort of the main piece of this episode. But as this is happening, we're going to be sent back to the Senate. Like, we're going to be cutting back and forth between this and the Senate. And the Senate is addressing tensions rising in Spain. So the Romans, they have like a couple. They have like a little bit of land in Spain, and things they're getting kind of attacked. And there's this people called Numatia, the Numatians, who are sort of causing trouble over there. And so they send a guy over there to deal with it, or they're like prepping to send a guy over there to deal with it. And so as they're preparing to do this, the episode will end, and the next episode is when our people will come back and they have a great triumph, which is where they like run through the city with all their wealth and stuff, and they hand it out to people, and they go under that big arch.
And they have the
big,
big
we're awesome
eagle, spears, the huge golden eagles at the top, and they walk through the town. Yeah. Everybody's loving them.
Yeah, exactly. And so Marius, he goes home, but he's still thirsty for glory and advancement. There's like, there's nothing really more he can do. He's got some money, he's got some standing a little bit, but he doesn't have the political space he wanted.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of disappointed in all that happened. And Scipio Aemilius, he's at the top of the world. You can't get any better than where he's at right now. He's a legend in Roman history right now. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone's like, they want to be him. He has an unceasing amount of influence over the Senate and over everything.
People love
he's pretty high up there. Tiberius, he sees this trip to Spain. He's like, I need to jump right on this right away. I have to, because I may have some standing now, but I got to really have a great military career if I hope to get high in politics. Mm-hmm. So he goes with this other consul to Spain. And the episode from there is going to go to Tiberius in Spain, which ends disastrous because the consul that he's following leads them into a trap. So I think there's like 5 or 6 legions. Mm-hmm. Tiberius and his consul are surrounded by hundreds of thousands of Numatian warriors.
Oof, that's not good.
And Tiberius is given no choice but to try to broker a treaty with them. Mm-hmm. And they agree that if Rome gives them peace and cedes them their land, then they'll let the legions go. And Tiberius, he makes the peace. It's all he can do, really, or they're all going to die.
Yeah.
And he goes home.
Not
Episode, I think 4 we're at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
So he gets home. Rome rejects his peace and denounces him, and he's like stripped from his military status, and just he's back a civilian again. Mm-hmm. A huge, devastating loss for him. He's probably going home to his mother, and he's upset about this, and yelling, and he's talking with his brother,
crying, probably like a little baby.
Well, his brother's not that much younger than him.
No, I mean he's crying because he lost his military stand. He's crying like a little baby.
Yeah, this is a huge blow to get where he wanted, which I believe was the Senate. Mm-hmm. He really had to succeed here, and he didn't. He wanted to be a consul, essentially, like his uncle.
Yeah.
And this huge military defeat which he feels is unjust, that the treatment he's given, because he had no choice. What else was he supposed to do besides negotiate that peace?
Yeah, because he wasn't in charge, right? He was following a consul.
Yeah, he was following someone else. So he had no choice but to do this, but he was denounced because he did it.
Maybe the
other
consul.
reason he wasn't punished more was because he wasn't the consul. Consul is punished a lot more.
Maybe
we
he's
don't care about him.
like dragged through the streets and whipped and stuff, you know.
You'll notice this throughout this, but if you do this, essentially in Roman history, you have a big military failure, they'll exile you, essentially.
Oh, okay.
So there's very big, there's great reward for winning battles, but there's huge downfalls to losing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get exiled.
Get exiled, that sounds bad.
Essentially, you just can't come back to Rome. You get exiled from Rome. You don't really get exiled from, like, the parts of the empire that are within the Roman Empire.
You just can't go in the city. That's okay. That's not that big
But
a deal.
that means for these people that are politics is their life, though, that's huge.
Yeah. It's like
that's their whole job, and everything is gone. They can't come back to the place they were born and have lived their whole life. And Rome is like the best place
in the world. 100%.
Yeah.
But it'd be like if you got exiled from New York City. That wouldn't be that big a deal, would it?
Yeah. If there was no other cities in the world besides New York City, it would probably pretty suck.
Yeah.
It'd suck a lot.
You can't get Thai food anywhere in the world besides Thailand.
Yep.
Bad news.
Yep, it would be bad news. And so, Senate is like, we need to send someone else there. And so, in a completely unprecedented move, they nominate Scipio Aemilius to his fourth consulship.
Oh my God!
His fourth consecutive consulship.
This guy needs.
You only usually get one. That's like the rules. You only get one. They give him 4, and they like suspend the rules again so he can become consul.
Mm-hmm. And is he like all for it, or is he like, ugh, I don't want to go again. I just got back.
It's not really clear. I mean, he sees like his opinion. I don't really know what his opinion is on this.
Mm-hmm.
I would say since he's this philosophical figure, who kind of sees like the Senate as this almighty force and very much championing the old republic, that he's neither like happy about it or mad about it. He sees it as like the right move because he's the most experienced general. He has a good track record.
Yeah. Okay.
And like, you know, he's probably the right person for the job.
Mm-hmm.
So they send our boy Scipio Aemilius once again, and he calls up his old officers, which include Marius. Marius is going out once again. He's like all sad, you know, last episode because he couldn't go to the fighting, and he gets the call from Scipio Aemilius. He's like, yes, once again, a chance for Faramir, Captain of Gondor, to show his quality.
Yeah, I can do it. It'll be great. It'll be so much fun. Some guy will ride up and hand him a scroll. That's how I imagine they did text messages.
Yeah, and he's
back
like,
in
yes,
the day.
I'm so happy. Yeah. And so, you know, plus he's like handpicked as well, so he feels like he's getting somewhere from this guy who's a legend in Rome. Wants him to be a part of his attack on Numatia.
Yeah.
Or Spain, essentially. And so while this is happening, also Tiberius is starting to see the problems of empire, which is Rome's sort of on the cut, like is becoming the empire now. They've defeated Carthage, all their enemies are dead, and he's starting to see this problem of wealth inequality in Rome.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is like essentially the armies come back. The men who fought in the war don't get anything. They just go back home. And a lot of the time, they're like taken from their farms.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can't work on their farms because they're taken from their farms because they have to go fight in the war. Because their farms fall into disrepair. And then these wealthy people who just got a bunch of money from the war because, you know, they're in the Senate or they're like businessmen. And they buy up these farms.
Yeah.
So it's like all the lower class people are getting really pushed aside, and these farms are becoming these huge mega farms.
But then again, doesn't that results in like less people being in the military, right? Because they can't.
That's also a problem. But a lot of the way they sort of fix it is tenant farming. So now they can rent the farm.
Yeah, serfdoms and stuff.
Yeah. So you got this. What this builds up is a extensive client network where like people who own the farms kind of control the votes of the people that are the tenants on their farms.
Mm-hmm.
Because voting is public in Rome. Everyone knows who you voted for. You say it out loud.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if you don't vote for who they want, they might kick you off your farm.
Mm-hmm. Or worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're sort of like, it's essentially it's becoming this form of feudalism. So we'll see like him like walking around the market, and we'll see like these poor farmers selling their farms and becoming tenants, and like, you know, richer people telling poor people like, oh, this is where you're gonna this is who you're gonna vote for now.
Yeah.
And like, you know, you owe yourself to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees this, and he starts thinking like, I got to do something about this. And episode is gonna end when he sees one of these instances and sort of decides to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 4, Marius and Emilius are in Spain now. They're getting ready to fight. It's not as exciting as the Carthage War. This is a slower, methodical war because they've got to find these nations and they got to take them out.
Mm-hmm. Probably using
meanwhile, Tiberius
tactics,
is campaigning for tribune.
Mm-hmm.
Tribune is this like the assembly is sort of like the public voting on something. It's kind of like the popular vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the tribune is the person that sort of presides over the assembly and puts bills up for voting.
Yeah.
And so he campaigns for tribune, and that's sort of, we're gonna have like a political race running while Marius and Emilius are fighting in Spain, and you know, we'll have some fun moments like when someone asks Emilius in the camp where Rome will find a replacement after he retires, because everyone's like, this is a legend, like what are we gonna do after Emilius retires? He's getting old, you know, what are we gonna do? He claps Marius on the back and says, maybe he's right here. So we get this like almost prophetic moment a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is big for Marius and very important emotionally for him, because he doesn't have any ties to anyone.
Mm-hmm. But it's also his
And
head's getting a little big, right?
A little bit, but not really. He's still really humble as well. He's in all these scenes where we're having him fighting. He's not the officer that's like, hey man, go build the wall. He's up there building the wall with them.
Yeah, he's in the shit.
Like a very, he's a very much a hands-on guy. All the soldiers really like Marius because he helps them and works with them.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
So we get Tiberius. He wins the election, and immediately he's like, I want to help pass this bill, which some of the other tribunes have been working on, called the Lex Agraria. So it's this bill that essentially would redistribute land between like the big rich farmers and the people, and would help prevent it from being distributed improperly again.
Yeah.
But instantly it hits major senatorial pushback.
Of course.
Because many of these senators would be affected by this bill because they own this land.
Mm-hmm. And even the
So they're like,
senators who aren't, or even the people who, you know, maybe they own the land, but they're not in the Senate. They, you know, pay the senators. You know, they help the senators out. The senators help them out. You know?
Yeah.
Political
It's a big huge corruption here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not good. And so Tiberius, angry with this, he breaks this important unwritten rule in Rome. There's a lot of unwritten rules that if you break them, it's not like the world, like nothing will happen, but it's just something you're not going to do. Like no one breaks it because it's just the way society is. And the rule is that before a bill is presented to the assembly, you must give it to the Senate, and they have to look it over and give their opinion on it. Mm-hmm. The idea is like the Senate is the more educated class, and so they'll help figure out, you know, if this bill's really right for Rome. Mm-hmm. But Tiberius, knowing that they're going to reject it, ignores this rule, breaking it, this is the first major unwritten rule that gets broken in this period of Roman history.
But probably not the last.
Definitely not the last. And so, Senate's obviously not upset. And so this episode is going to end with the Senate convincing one of the other tribunes to be their like little puppet and to veto the bill. Because the way the veto works is that the tribune can veto any bill for any reason at any time.
Oof.
And so as soon as Tiberius puts it up for vote, this other guy, Octavius, vetoes it.
The way we could build up Octavius in the previous few episodes as being kind of like a slimy, politician-y style guy. Who's like...
But see, Octavius, in his head, he does not see this as, like... He's not seeing this as corrupt. He sees this as he's supporting Senate authority because Tiberius broke this unwritten rule.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Maybe we could have him be more of like a ultra-capitalist sort of a character who's all about, like, you know, these are the people who have the power, and they have the power because they're better, right, than the people who don't have the power. So we need to, you know, uphold our standard.
But we gotta make it so that he's like, he like really believes in it as like not just the power, like, but maybe he thinks like this is the way it's always been done. You know, the Roman Republic's always been like this. They're the educated, you know, the wise people. You have to be really old to be a senator, so it's like these are the
better class, the wiser
like
class,
the people that have the wisdom to understand what we need to do. I don't want to. He's not really a figure that's like knee deep in corruption. Well, he kind of is, but he doesn't really see it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's
so it. Oh, okay, sorry.
I was just gonna say he's similar in a way to what's his name? The first guy, the older general guy who's been doing it 4 times.
Scipio Aemilius. Well, Scipio Aemilius isn't really corrupt.
Yeah.
He's just like.
But Octavio and him both believe in the power of the Senate, right?
The Senate, yeah, they're optimates, as it's called.
So maybe it's like they're
versus
both
populare, which is the people.
They're both part of the same
sort of
coin,
factions.
right? And it's like one's, you know, believes in the power of the Senate, but also believes in, you know, helping out the people, and the other one, he believes purely in the power of the Senate, and the people is simply, you know, a wave of resources to be directed where the Senate sees fit.
Yeah. So the bill gets blocked. We're in the next episode now. The bill gets blocked. Tiberius and his like fellow bill writers are upset, and they're trying to figure out what they can do. And there is one thing they can do, which they can recall Octavius's election. Legally allowed, but also another rule breaking of they call it the Mos Majorum, which is just sort of like the unwritten rules.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna call it that from now on, the Mos Majorum. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but anyway.
I don't think we're pronouncing anything right. You know, it's ancient languages. It's Latin. We don't know.
They know how Latin's pronounced. Anyway, at least some parts. So he gets deposed, Octavius, and when you lose your tribune powers, you also lose like the protections that come along with it. And there's like a mob that wants to beat the shit out of him because the people are very much behind the Lex Agraria.
Yeah, of course.
And so as soon as he loses his sacred powers that that protect him from beatings and stuff, like you can't kill a tribune or there's like huge consequences.
Yeah.
And so once he loses them, there's like a mob that wants to beat the shit out of him, and like so there's a big clash because there's like a pro-Senate mob that comes in and like helps him escape. So we have this big clash in the streets, and we're starting to get the sense that tensions are high.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, this fucking fighting in the street.
There's riots, high tensions.
So now that he's deposed, the bill is passed. So that's big.
Very
Lex
big.
Agraria is passed. The land will be, redistributed. They set up a committee that's gonna redistribute it, which Tiberius is on. Some of his fellow bill writers and his brother Gaius are on the committee. Big for Gaius, it's his first position.
Yeah, good for him.
Good for Gaius. Not so good, really. Once we get into it.
once the seasons progress, probably not so good. Probably would have been better served if he was just like a farmer. you know?
If he just stayed home with his mom, he would have been better off. So, the Senate controls the power of the purse, though, and they block it for the committee from getting any money. So the law is passed, but they don't have any money to actually do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So Tiberius and his bill writers are angry again. And so Tiberius uses the assembly's power again. This time he's on his he's on the end of his term, so he has to run for re-election, though, for the third time. Now, tribunes only run, again, like the consul, really only one time. Is like the unwritten rule, the Mos Majorum. They run one time, but you can get voted in multiple times. So, he gets into it a third time, and people are getting angry because, like, the Senate is, because they're starting to see him as like a king figure now. Like, he has all the power. Now that he's just been elected again, and he stripped the power of the purse from the Senate, the assembly has all the power in Rome. And he's the center of it, and he's gonna just keep getting elected over and over and over again. And there's an unwritten rule in the Roman Republic as well that anyone can kill anyone else at any time if he thinks they're trying to take over as a king.
Yeah.
That's the rule, because from their past of like their old kings that they had.
Romans did not like kings. The Roman Republic
did
did not like kings. That's why they called them emperors. But that's probably going to be a later thing.
It's a later thing. While we're doing this, tensions are getting at an all-time high. We're also fighting in Numatia. And Marius and Emilius are kind of hard-pressed. They're not doing super well in a battle. And that's when Jugurtha, the son of the king of Numidia, comes. He's the bastard son of the king of Numidia. And he shows up with a huge force. He's an ally of Rome, his dad is. And so they come in with reinforcements. This is kind of like a Helm's Deep moment in Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Like, Marius and Emilius are in the thick of fighting, not doing super well, and that's when Jugurtha comes in with a bunch of cavalry and slingers, and they slam into the back of the Numatians. I know it's getting confusing because it's Numidia and Numatia, but they're different countries.
It out. Well, they'll have different clothes on, you know?
Well, yeah, Numidia is in Africa, and Numatia is in Spain, so...
Yeah, we'll give one purple and the other, like, you know, a maroon.
So Jugurtha, remember that name, he's important.
Jugurtha.
So he's... Jugurtha, yeah. So Jugurtha, he helps them, starts to become friends with Marius and Emilius. People like him in the camp because he just saved them, and he's like this really kind of fun guy, you know? He's like this cool figure.
We'll get him to be played by, who's Joel in The Last of Us?
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, Pedro Pascal. We'll get him to play him.
Oh, he would be great as Jugurtha. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. We're just poaching poaching actors from like Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. We're just taking them, bringing them to us.
Essentially, yeah. Oh my God! I just realized who Scipio Emilius can be. He can be Sean Bean.
Yes.
Sean Bean will be Scipio Emilius.
Do it. That'd be great.
Okay, so he's got kind of like the Roman look to him. You know, like the very square face.
Yeah, just no beards. Everyone has to be clean shaven.
Actually, well, we'll have him be clean shaven, but at this period in Roman history, they haven't adopted that yet.
Oh, really? Huh.
I think it's actually Emilius who's the first one, if I remember correctly, who shaves.
Who says that beards
and that
are
becomes
barbarian?
The fashion.
Beards are barbarian.
I can't remember now. Anyway, episode 6. This is the last episode of the first season. Or 7, or whatever number. I added an extra number in there at some point. It's kind of confusing.
Yeah, I thought you said
7.
8 last episode.
Did I? I've been just saying next episode because I added one in the middle because I realized that one episode was too long in my little list.
It's fine. Somebody else will figure it out.
Really confused me. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
If you're listening to this,
not like you've been following the numbers that I've been throwing out.
Put it in the
It's just
comments.
the overall story, you know? We know where this is going.
Yeah.
Tiberius is building, like, he failed in the military. He's trying to come up in the political side, but he's breaking all these rules. And now he's kind of like this untouchable, like, almost king-like figure. Meanwhile, we got Marius, the young upstart soldier. A lot of upstarts here.
A lot of young upstarts,
with Emilius, you know, trying to take over this country that's being a bit of a nuisance to Rome. And in this episode is where we get the siege of Numatia. It's going to be awesome. Marius and Emilius are taking the city. And while we're cutting back and forth between them taking this city, Cornelius Scipio Nasha. See, the problem is with Rome is that all these names are really similar.
And complicated. They're all really complicated and also similar.
And people's names change depending on like the victories they've received too.
Oh,
so
that's so annoying.
we'll call this guy Nasha, Nasica.
Yeah, Nas.
Nasica.
We could call him Nas.
Nas. We'll call him Nas. He is the Pontifex Maximus, which it basically is big important guy in the Senate. And
does a lot of talking probably.
There's this back and forth kind of going on in Rome on this episode where Tiberius he knows that what he's doing is wrong in the sense of breaking all these unwritten rules, but he's doing it because he's like, I need to help the people no matter what, and this is what's going to help the people no matter the ends justify the means.
Yeah.
And he's also worried because he thinks he's going to get assassinated, and so constantly he has people around him, like his pro mob of like sort of people from the city and people from like the equestrian class, or like the more wealthy people but not super wealthy.
Wealthy enough to get their land taken by the super wealthy.
Yeah, but also he's giving them other benefits too. Like he's not only doing stuff, he's not just doing the Lex Agraria, he's trying to create this coalition of people against the Senate, you know what I mean? And so he's giving them like positions in a court or something so that they'll help him.
That's not good.
Yeah. So, but he sees like it's the only way, and so he's worried. He dresses in black like for mourning because he thinks he's gonna die. It's like very dramatic. And maybe he's right because his people, like after the election of I think it's his fourth election, they like spill the ballot boxes like the Senate does, and they decry Scipio Nasha's, or Nasha decries Tiberius as a tyrant, and this mob of pro-Senate people chases Tiberius, who runs to like a temple which is sacred, and they're like, he can't kill me here, but the mob comes in anyway, and Nasha, this like senatorial figure who's supposed to respect the rules, kills Tiberius in the temple. So Tiberius can't be killed because he has this special office, right?
Yeah.
That's against the rules. That's against like the sacred laws of their people.
These aren't just unwritten rules.
Second,
these are straight up written down, and you can't do that.
Second, he's murdering him in a temple, which is a big no-no.
Yeah, bad.
He's breaking a ton of rules here, and so he slays him, kills him and his supporters with this huge this is our like Ned Stark dying in Game of Thrones moment, by the way. This is huge. Tiberius is killed, and instead of being buried as fit of his status, they dump him and his supporters in the Tiber.
Oof. Not
this
good.
This huge, awful moment where all of his supporters and him are murdered and stoned and tossed in the fucking river.
Maybe we have like an oracle of the temple, and she's just like screaming and like laying down ancient, Roman curses on them, like your house shall be in, flames, something like that. Some prophesial stuff,
Yeah.
Putting down prophecies, dog.
And so the final shot of the episode will be Tiberius is like head floating over the water. Like floating, like how you throw I would say how.
When Jake throws bodies.
Theoretically, if you were to throw a body in the water, they would float a little bit.
Yeah.
And so he'd have his head just like bobbing down the Tiber. And then we go to credits.
End of credits.
Season 1 over.
What song are you playing on the end of the credits?
I don't know. Do you have an idea?
The only idea I have
just...
is that one song that's by, I think it's by, They Might Be Giants. Istanbul to Constantinople.
Yeah, that's not happening.
But that
doesn't exist yet.
Exactly. So, I don't know. Any ancient Rome songs?
It'd probably just be like I feel like this show is going to have to be a lot of orchestral themes.
Yeah.
It's not going to be popular songs and stuff like that.
It's
hard to do that with ancient history, like doing popular songs because it just feels weird.
It does. Unless you get, like, ancient, like, era-specific instruments and then play those modern songs in an ancient style. That might work, but usually it doesn't.
Yeah. We're getting pretty deep into time here, and I have 3 other seasons.
I was gonna say, you've got 3 more seasons. You want to maybe save up those seasons for another episode?
Save them?
I mean, yeah, why not?
I guess we'll have to do this next time.
Yeah. Well,
It's exciting. I'm telling you. We're going all the way to Caesar, and we are not close to Caesar.
No, we are not.
This is the Ned Stark moment, as I said. This is when the blood begins, and the fighting that precedes this is absolutely insane. All the political moves and the things people do to each other, and like the insanity of like the barbarians and all the outside wars and the civil wars and everything.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is brutal. I read this book about this period, and I was instantly like, this has to be a TV show. Like this, it's too good. I can't imagine, because it's just like Game of Thrones, where you've got these like sons and daughters and siblings and stuff, where it's like, you killed my dad in this one revolt, so I'm gonna murder you, and
all the stuff.
It's all this built up spite and anger from all these different people, and they're all connected in these weird ways.
And you know me, I love spite and anger. But that was good. I like that. Do we have a title besides Roman Game of Thrones?
So the ideas I had were the Twilight Republic or Res Republica. Res Republica is just Latin for the Republic.
I think Res Republica.
And the Twilight Republic is...
I like the Res Republica.
The Republic.
Yeah, I think that's good. Well, I like that a lot. I'm excited to see what happens in the next 3 seasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of... I'm not surprised, but I am surprised I didn't get to the other stuff.
Yeah, I saw that we were like halfway through a season at like 30 minutes, and I was like, we might not get to the rest of it, but that's okay. I enjoyed it. And that means you don't have to write another pitch for like ever, because you've got 3 weeks
Honestly,
worth of pitches.
I kind of do, because the season 2, 3, and 4 that I wrote down here, I didn't really write a lot, because I thought I'd just sort of run through it quick.
Okay.
So I'll have to expand on that, which is fun, because I kind of half-assed it, I'll be honest.
That's okay. Well, good thing that you get to expand. And good thing that you all listened to us today. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles Lynn. With me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, and podcast associate, Jacob Cloth. If you like what you heard
That's
here...
right, we're not friends.
You told me... I was listening to last week's episode this morning, and that was like the first thing you said. We're not friends.
You listen to our episodes? I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I always listen to them. I always go in, I go to the YouTube channel, I listen to them, like at least the first
Make sure
few
Jake
minutes.
didn't mess up.
There was that one time you did mess up, and I texted you.
I messed up a lot. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your cat, and be back here next week when we will have a brand new TV show for you to imagine that I'll be pitching. And it'll be a new one. It won't be a sequel to last week's episode. It'll be a brand new thing. It'll take a while to do my 2nd season of House of Malice. Goodbye.
I'm excited for that. House of Malice. What happened to the Detective Smoke? Is he
still a detective?
What happened to his backstory? I want to know.
Is his backstory really, really sad? Yes, it is. I might tell Jake after we stop recording so that I can get his barometer on how sad I should do it.
It's so sad.
It's pretty sad.
It's gonna be way too sad. I'm
might be.
definitely gonna tell you that it's too sad.
Yeah, you are. I know you are. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.